Good morning and greetings from Northumberland on a rainy morning. It's the 21st of June, which is variously the summer solstice, although the solstice was technically, I think, last night, astronomically the first day of summer, meteorologically the 14th day of summer, because summer began on the 1st of June, meteorologically speaking, and also by some people called Midsummer Day, because this is the longest day, and after this, as they say, nights are drawing in. It's complicated. It's also the second Sunday after Trinity and the 14th Sunday after lockdown. It's complicated. And I say all this, wasting a minute of your time, to illustrate the fact that things aren't always simple. And you might be forgiven for thinking that when you read the readings for today, especially St. Matthew's Gospel. It sort of goes backwards and forwards about us being like Jesus, which is quite important. But if they call me evil, they'll call you evil. And if this happens to you, remember that I'm with you. It's just one of those passages that's a bit difficult to apprehend. And in Romans, we talk about dying with Christ so that we can rise to a new life. It's one of those that the preachers really love, not. But I thought, how do I approach this? I was talking yesterday, and I was thinking about the fact that this Sunday is surrounded by a great cloud of saints. If you remember last week, we spoke about Richard of Chichester, we spoke about Samuel and Henrietta Barnett, the housing reformers, Bernard Mackay in Africa, Sundar Singh in India. And next week we go on, I'm just looking down at the list to think about St. Alban, the first martyr in our country, Etheldreda, an abbess in the east of England, St. John the Baptist, and later in the week, St. Cyril, Bishop of Alexandria. And that, for me, seemed to give me a clue of what it's about. Romans was about dying with Christ so that we could have a new life. And the Matthew Gospel seems to be about the fact that if we follow Christ, then some of the things, the misfortunes that came to Christ, will also come to us. That discipleship is not an easy path. And we see that in the lives of the saints. They are saints not because they float through life without any trouble, but because they encounter difficulties and are able to overcome them and move forward in love because they have Christ in them. And that's an important message for us, especially in the ups and downs of the present situation. We are facing a massive crisis that will have repercussions for our country for many, many years, economically and socially and in many other ways. And we can only face these things as Christians, I believe, if we know that we are following in the way of Christ and that we have the love of Christ in us. When we celebrated the divine compassion of Christ, we remember that Jesus says to us, "Come to me, you who are overburdened and weary, and I will give you rest." And so as we travel through life with its ups and its downs, we know that our lives are linked to the life of Christ, to the love of Christ, to the suffering of Christ for us, and that just as we share in his sufferings, so we share in his life. And that because we share in his death through baptism, we also share in the eternal life that he promises to all of us. May God bless us today and keep us in his love.